One more CNN panel to look over to complete the trifecta of today. This one covering a wide swath of issues, actually, not one thing specifically, that I thought we could use to sum up the day and touch on a couple things that are happening that I might otherwise not get to fit into the cycle, starting here.
American Army and the American military behind them in today's world. Because
that's just not what happened here. Look, what happened here is that
I support Donald Trump. I voted for him 3 times. This credit goes to Joe Biden. Joe Biden
not
is
100%.
the president.
That's not fair.
We don't have to get into numbers. The fact is that I've seen under various presidents the credit go to another president. No one wants to give the other one in power or in the administration. They don't want to give him credit. Joe Biden is president of the United States. This happened under Joe Biden's watch. He deserves a lot of credit.
These people will grasp at straws to give Trump credit for anything, almost like they know that he'll do nothing. So he needs, anything that he can get, right? Trump gets no credit for how he caused the tensions in the Middle East to boil over into war, or how he, very much escalated this conflict because it ended up happening under Biden. But he does get credit for the ceasefire because that looks good, even though it also happened under Biden. Where's the consistency here? It literally has nothing to do with Trump. The idea that the world fears Trump is just some really weird fan fiction that only exists in MAGA's head. The world laughs at Trump, truly, right? Now, to be fair here, Biden is quite the genocidal maniac himself on this front and does not deserve much, if any, credit for this either. But as to the actual ceasefire deal, it's a 3-phase plan. The first is a 42-day ceasefire. Hamas is set to release 33 women, children, and elderly hostages in return for hundreds of Palestinian women and children who have been held without charge, essentially hostages in Israel. Humanitarian aid and food, fuel, these kinds of things will be allowed into the area, of which it's been sparse recently. Soldiers will be partially withdrawn in the first phase, with a full withdrawal happening in the second phase. The timeline for this is to be discussed over the next 42 days. It kind of goes on how much both sides are good actors in this deal. And then they're going to work towards reconstruction in phase 3. Kind of a pipe dream if we get through all of it. It's a long shot. Nobody really knows. This comes after 46,000 Palestinians have been slaughtered. A large portion of those innocent civilians, a large portion of those women, children, and elderly. Those are just the confirmed dead, likely tens of thousands more. 2 million have been displaced. Almost 70% of the buildings in Gaza have been destroyed. There's still a lot of uncertainty ahead. Who knows what Israel's motives are? Who knows what's going to happen when Trump takes office, how things are going to change? Who knows if they're going to stay committed? But this is a huge first step, and a ceasefire is always a good thing. And it shows again that Israel was never going to bomb its way into getting the hostages back, that negotiating, diplomacy, ceasefire was always going to be the way, like those of us on the left have been saying.
And I think that's going to be the case.
How do you think history's going to treat his foreign policy, his Bidenomics? How do you think he's going to be treated? Pardoning his son, the Biden brand name. Do you think a single Biden can get on the board of the Smithsonian?
I don't think you can argue against pardoning the son when you supported a felon. You see, that to me, you lose the moral authority there.
How do you feel about the Biden brand? How did he help his family? It's worse than Nixon for him.
You're going to talk to me about helping the family when Jared Kushner got $2 billion from the Saudis?
She's tearing him up, right? He's doing the whole stick that I've been relentlessly calling out, which is just blame Democrats for things you'll never acknowledge Trump and Republicans do or hold them to the same standard for. Helping the family? Are we being for real? Trump has appointed 3 family members to his cabinet already, 0 of which are qualified. Jared Kushner got billions from Saudis in Trump's last term. Ivanka got over 40 patents fast-tracked in China that she probably wouldn't have even gotten approved if Trump wasn't the president. Kristi Noem, who Trump just appointed to his cabinet, gave her daughter preferential treatment, as we covered in a video. All of this gets not even a peep from MAGA. They don't even care, kind of. But Joe Biden pardons his son, who has been relentlessly investigated for 8 years without any crimes being found, mind you. Yet he's had his private parts blasted publicly in Congress hearings, his drug problems blasted publicly in Congress hearings, his sex life blasted publicly in congressional hearings, accused of all kinds of baseless conspiracies, and then charged with something Republicans actively campaigned to not be a crime, before Trump then appoints an FBI director who literally has Hunter on a hit list of Democrats to go after. And this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's like, how dare he? That's corruption. Please give me a break. I literally can't even take these people serious anymore.
Tell the American people I ran on retribution. I'm going to carry it out in the Justice Department.
Well, you can't say that. You no.
Did you hear the clip we just played?
You cannot say that. If you're sitting there trying to get confirmed, you can't say that. And if you heard what Pam Bondi said herself, she said that there will not be an enemies list. They're trying to refer to Kash Patel. There's no need to refer to her. I thought that Pam Bondi comported herself very well. She gave it as good as they gave it to her. I think there was a much different situation because I left yesterday with Pete Hegseth's hearing. I felt very differently about Pete Hegseth as opposed to Pam Bondi because she was strong. Even though she gave that bit of back and forth, she was in.
Yeah, no, I wrote about her hearing. Yeah, no, and we wrote up her hearing. If you want to get a more thorough look at what was actually said, the questions that were asked, it's in the first link in my description, my Substack. Check it out. Subscribe there if you haven't. Really trying to grow that. But it's clear that she's just willing to act out Trump's vows of retribution. She refused to rule out probing political enemies. She refused to even say she would put the Constitution over the party. She refused to even say that Trump lost in 2020. Like, I thought these were things that MAGA was against, right? Like political persecution of your political enemies. But again, only when Democrats are doing it or when they can pretend that Democrats are doing it is it a problem. They literally love it when Trump does it. They cheered it on his first term, cheered it on all throughout his first presidency. But then when it was Trump, it became a problem, right? And now it's just they're cheering it on again. The fact is she doesn't need an enemies list of her own. That's kind of a redundant question. The questioning was pertaining to Kash Patel and his enemies list, right? If Kash Patel brought her a list or names of people on a list that were considered political enemies of Trump, would she be willing to look into them? And she refused to say, no, I wouldn't be willing to look into them, which means she would. Kash Patel has a hit list. We know this. It's been publicly reported on. Pam having one too, again, would be redundant and unnecessary. It's cogs in a larger machine. They work together, and it's happening right now before our eyes. And every Republican's going to vote to let it happen as MAGA cheers it on. I mean, this is truly the destruction of our democracy. It's the erosion of the American experiment.